One of the fastest ways to destroy a sales team is to pay them the wrong way. You can pay too little and they leave. Pay too much and your new deals become unprofitable. So today we're going to walk through exactly how we think about compensation for appointment setters, closers, and account managers. Welcome back, everybody. It's me, Ozzy, and
Zach.
And together we've built multiple businesses, including Advertis, where we've helped over 400 marketing agencies scale smarter, grow faster, and escape the chaos that most agency owners get stuck in. In each episode, we're going to break down real conversations by agency owners like you. And we're going to talk about things like sales, operations, hiring, scaling, leadership, the wins, the failures, all of it. And today, we're actually going to talk about, we're diving deeper into our building the sales team, episodes. And we're going to talk through really what today we're talking about the compensation of a sales team. So that comp plan, the magical comp plan. And in past episodes, Zach and I, we've talked about how really, with a sales team, there's an immediate return on investment. Whereas sometimes it's a little more difficult to track that in your operations and your delivery team. Whereas in a sales team, you can kind of figure that out pretty quickly. So it's almost like advertising like the marketing expense, right, for your business, except that, that salesperson is out there proactively trying to work your pipelines, proactively just in general looking at how they can build business. And so today we're talking about how to pay them. And I'm just going to throw this out pretty immediately. I would say most agencies' compensation plans, either they don't exist or they fail. Zach,
Yeah.
you're right?
Yeah, no, it's very true. Of all of our 400 agency partners, it really feels like at least 50% of the sales is led by a founder, a CEO, an executive leader, maybe one additional person. Shoot, I mean, there isn't even an agency that we met with that had over 100 employees, and basically it was like 3 people handling the majority of the sales. So it is kind of fascinating that so many of the sales teams on the agency side in the marketing agency industry, they're not built, they're not developed. And I think a big reason is people ask themselves, well, how do I create a compensation plan for a salesperson come into my business? I think it feels easier for other things, but for the average agency owner, I think it's really difficult. And honestly, I think it's a problem that they just don't know how to solve. So they keep avoiding it and they keep settling everything else down. Like I'll hand over my operations, I'll hand over my service delivery, I'll hand over my onboarding, I'll hand over my finances, my admin. Sales is still like
Like
not,
last to
it's
go.
like the last thing.
Well,
But
and some founders and some owners, they actually enjoy it, right? Which is fine. Like I get it.
do they enjoy it or do they
I
just
mean,
know another way?
we have an entire sales team and you and I still get involved in sales just because we enjoy it. I think we don't have to be there most of the time.
Well, it is a good opportunity to get close with the customer, right? And good opportunity to see what's out there in the market and what can be sold and tested. But it obviously the 2 pillars that we always talk about is that your business needs to run without you and it needs to grow without you.
That's right.
And I would say a lot of agencies can run without leadership or without the owner, but can it grow? And at the end of the day, it's like, how likely is your business to succeed? It's building it as if you're going to sell it and as if it needs to run on its own.
Yeah, precisely. Well, and I think if I were to really highlight one of the reasons why agencies kind of stay away from building a comp plan, it's a lot of times they don't even track their own KPIs internally. So they don't know like what the expectations for the role is. They don't know the KPIs, or they don't even know how to make it profitable. That's just a whole other business like conversation. But I think like if I were to just summarize, I think comp plans, they should reward the behavior that you want repeated. So
Yes.
any sort of compensation when you have someone who has skin in the game, right? Like most salespeople, I always loved sales in any company I worked in because you had more control over how much money you can make. Also, how much time you spend, right? Like you have more control of your time. So there's a lot of like risk reward that
Mhm.
comes in sales, almost like entrepreneurship. But a lot of times these salespeople, they've got their own book of business that they can bring into your agency, which is nice. They have their own network, their own ways that they like to sell, and you can bring that skill set into your agency. The problem is if you don't have KPIs, you don't have like any way of measuring their success of clear expectations, then you're kind of setting them up for failure. And we've talked about that in past episodes on,
Yeah.
who to hire for what, like the types of roles in sales that there are for an agency, et
Yeah.
cetera.
Well,
But
let's
yeah,
recap that real quick. The in order to build out a good compensation plan for a sales member or sales team, you do really need to start measuring sales for yourself as the founder, as the agency owner. You need to be able to kind of keep track of yourself. That means having a CRM, updating it consistently. That means having a baseline for how many leads, how many prospects, how many conversations you have on a month to month basis. If you're like, well, on average, I get 5 leads per month, it's not a lot, but those are good leads. And it's like, great, that's your baseline. It needs to increase. Let's figure out ways to increase it. So you kind of have to start measuring yourself and treating yourself as if you're an employee. And I think that will kind of really help build out a plan for compensation, right? Because then you kind of get a better idea of like what are the things that you're doing today that need to be repeated, that SOPs need to be created for and whatnot.
I agree. And I think, as an owner and someone who's been in this position, or, myself, you've been a part of this too. It's like oftentimes some of the most successful businesses that I've seen where a founder has successfully pulled themselves out of their business is the founder that has been a part of every single position within the company. Right. Because not only does it help them pinpoint what their goals for that role individually are, and then they kind of just fire themselves and hire someone into that, but it also helps them see where the weaknesses are in the company,
Yes.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Stress
being a
it.
firefighter, going back to that firefighter, guys, all you have to do is just step down into that role for probably a week or two. And you really could see, and in this case, because we're talking about sales, most founders or owners are at that level already anyways. So, but I think like going back to the KPIs and stuff, like you said, a CRM, a way to track your leads. We'll get into that here in just a second. We're going to dive into this, but like just these little things that help you kind of nuance what the role is for sales overall.
Yeah.
And then you can break it into each role.
And to be even more specific, this is specifically for the agency owner who has been leading sales and it's the closer, right? Is usually also the one that identifies the leads or they get the referrals, right? Works the leads, follows up on them, and then sends out the contract, negotiates scope, and then hands it off to another member of their team for onboarding, right? And delivery. For you, because it's a lot of agency owners, you need to immediately look at your last 12 months, look at the average amount of leads you've gotten on a per month basis. That's your baseline. If it's 5 leads per month, 10 leads per month, 20 leads per month, that's your baseline, right? And then you need to make sure you never go under that. Because if you go under that, right, then the current trajectory of your business as it follows, because we're in the agency industry, folks, right? Churn is a part of the industry. The agency model is that you get more clients than you lose over a certain amount of time. So as you go in, you need to make sure you have, if it's 5 leads, you need to always be getting net new 5 leads per month, right? Then from the leads, you need to start tracking your CRM, the opportunity on those leads, right? Someone says, I need a new website and I need SEO. I need to, that's going to be, I don't know, 2K per month plus like 20K website, it's going to be opportunities, 22,000, whatever. That is in your pipeline, $22,000, right? So then you need to start measuring what's in your pipeline, right? Then after doing that for a few months, you can start seeing how often these close and the time frame in which they close. Do they close within 30 days, 60 days, 90 days? And then once you're able to measure the days and the length from lead to close, then you're able to identify and start forecasting, which gets really fun. You're like, great, my pipeline is, I don't know, $50,000, right? And I know that this work will close in 90 days. And I know that 25% of this work will close. That's awesome. Now you can start forecasting and say, I need to hire an account manager or another specialist, or I need to outsource to Advertis, right? Or a white label partner, because I know that my team's going to be inundated here shortly within 3 months, right?
Yep.
Because you're able to
Precisely.
forecast on that 90 days. And then all of a sudden you have like a pipeline, you're able to track and measure it, you're able to estimate, and you're able to put a sales team, like a sales
Yep.
member in there, right? To track those
Mhm.
KPIs and those metrics. Those are,
Well, and to Zach,
yeah.
to your point, like you can't have a level of expectations until you measure these things. So when you hire someone to come in, like an appointment sitter, so dive into this, the appointment sitter, We know that the appointment setter's role is to identify new opportunities in book discovery calls, for your closers, right? And so, like, the way that they're paid, going back to compensation, is one, you've already tracked these KPIs, so you know how to hold them accountable. So now you've set the expectation that you have a quota. For our team, we have to meet, like 30 discovery calls in a given month. And when our team hits that, our appointment setter, they make a base, a small base, usually like minimum wage for the state that they live in. And then that covers, the bare minimum, but then they get most of their money from the bonuses. So if they hit that 30 call, mark, that's 100% quota, then they get an extra $2,000 bonus or whatever it is. It's up to you, right? You get to make these things because you're business, you're the owner. And so then that's one. Then it could be a show rate. So, depending on how many people show, their job, I can tell you this, Nate, what he does in our team is if someone doesn't show, now his job is to go back to them and follow up until until he gets a
They
hold of
do
them.
show. Yeah.
Yeah, until they show up. So then if he gets the show rate is an average, you can do a quarterly bonus, you can do a monthly bonus, whatever you choose that's best for your business to incentivize them. Again, going back to this whole, the point is compensation should reward the behavior you want repeated. So you want a better show rate, then incentivize your appointment setter to really press on the show rate. If you want more discovery calls booked, then you need to make that the higher level. Like, okay, I booked 30 discovery calls in a month, but I want, okay, 50 is the new goal. Incentivize them. Make that a $6,000 bonus. I don't know. Figure it out. But that's what you want to do. One thing that we do is we also measure lead score. I love this. This is something that actually it was like one of my favorite things for this role. So what we do, guys, is we just have a Google sheet, and every single discovery call is booked. It is manually put in from the appointment setter. Okay. And for this appointment setter, they manually put it in. We have a Monday call. We go through all the appointments that are scheduled for that week. He gives them a dossier on that contact, on their agency, on them. So that dossier is a run through of everything about them, how they qualify to be an Advertis, a partner of Advertis, et cetera. Then because of that, that appointment setter knows that his closer is aware of the quality of that appointment. So after that appointment is done, that closer goes and rates it on a scale of 1 to 5 across 5 different categories. And if he gets an average score of a 3 or higher across the whole month of discovery calls, he gets another bonus, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that helps keep the quality of the leads intact. It really is helpful for us as a company and for our closers. They're not wasting their time. They can work more mid-funnel without the discovery calls at top of funnel.
Remember, for the agency owners out there that's handling sales for the most part, you're doing all this in your head. Like, you're doing all of this without telling a single soul. We see the work because we know the work, right? But the rest of your team does not see it. And you don't know that you need to communicate this and you need to lay it out, because I guarantee you the average agency owner will hop on a conversation with a lead, form fill out something really simple, and within 5 minutes they'll know this is a good deal, this is a serious lead, or this is some mom and pop shop that they're trying to get me to run their ads for $100 a month, and it's just not a good fit. But you're doing the lead scoring in your brain. You're doing the follow-up planning in your brain. You're doing the quoting and the scoping in your brain. You're doing the pipeline estimation in your brain. You need to get it out.
Get out of your head and put it to educate your team in it.
Yes.
Scale yourself, right? Scale yourself.
Scale yourself. Exactly. So I just want to make a point, because I think the average agency owner would listen to this and think to themselves, yeah, I do this already. Correct, you do, but your team won't unless they're taught, unless they're trained, and that's your job.
Something else that I would share another little bonus that I do for the appointment setter that I think is really important that a lot of people leave out when it comes to service-based companies is if that sales team hits the overall company goal for the month, give them a bonus.
Yeah.
Because oftentimes the appointment setter is also managing all the CRM data input, right? They need some level of like accountability to help the closer get their close.
Yes.
Because I can tell you this for a fact. If I hire an appointment setter to come in and just book appointments, they're going to book appointments like Joe Schmo. They don't care if the quality's good unless you make them a lead score that qualifies it. They have to hit for them to qualify, or you give them the accountability that the sales team has to perform and hit their overall goal before you can get another bonus.
Yep.
So yeah.
We did that in our business. I mean, the agencies we were talking to a couple of years ago is like, why are all these marketing agencies like small one-offs? Like, they have a half part-time job, they're half starting their agency, the quality's bad. And we realized we were trying to make the lead into something bigger.
Yeah.
And that was unfair, right? It was unfair on our team. It was unfair to us. It was unfair to the agency partner to be like, we want to scale you into this big agency with all these clients and all this work that you're working with Vertus on. Awesome. But if that agency owner or agency entrepreneur was there, then they would be there, right? But they're not quite there yet. They're still learning and they're still growing the infancy of their business, which is fine. And we still help out onesie twosie agencies sometimes. But the conversation here is like the larger agencies, the one that already has 20, 50, 100 clients in the book. The ones that are doing 5 million, 10 million, 15 million a year. Those are
Mhm.
the agencies that have need, right? Lots of need. And it really works well with our white label partnership. And those are the agency partners that started bubbling up to the surface more frequently once we started doing lead scoring, right? And that's just a personal example for us.
Well, to kind of go into the next segment, talking about the closer's compensation,
Mhm.
it really matters because, you don't want your closers who are working mid and bottom funnel with your existing clients, right? With the account managers. You don't want them focusing all their energy at top of funnel. That's why you have an appointment setter.
Yes.
That's why you have the lead score. That's why you have that quality there. So, there was a time where we were getting 50 to 100 discovery calls every month, but only, 20 or 30 of them were qualified. And so that time is being wasted for our closers versus them being in mid funnel, working some of these active partnerships, et cetera. And so I guess kind of leading into that, when you have that appointment setter, set up, that helps set up the next, which is the closer. And so their compensation matters a ton when it comes to closing deals, right? Oftentimes they have a lower base. So, again, like a minimum wage or even, some about $20 an hour, give or take. And then sometimes even just commission only, right? We started off on commission only. And so, as you kind of progress, if you're doing commission only, by the way, you need to have a higher quota or not a quota, I'm sorry, a higher commission,
Yep.
right? 20, 30% commissions
Yep.
payouts. And then we introduced a thing called a ramp period. So the first 3 months as a salesperson in the company, you have a low base, but you get a 20% reoccurring commission on everything you sell with your partners. And so that builds it up. And then you have a retention like that's there that helps build your base. And then after 3 months, you go on to the standard comp plan, which is a 10, 15% payout with a 3% reoccurring. And so like the way that we do that is it helps incentivize that person to come into your business and learn it really quickly. Get in there. You have 3 months to build your base, right? That's the incentive. And then from there, you can, push on, okay, I'm going to establish this pipeline within the first 3 to 6 months and then push, 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 push. But as a salesperson, your mind is always thinking, what will bring me the most success to get the most quota, to get the most commission, et cetera. And so
Yes.
that's kind of how it works.
And I want to say something. I think some agency owners out there may also think to themselves, like, oh, well, so like, how would I find that talent? Like, it's so hard to find good talent. And you find them by having a good comp plan. Exactly what Ozzy is talking about here. If you have a good comp plan, a good sales rep would read that comp plan and say, okay, great, cool. All right, I get minimum wage. All right, so I get my bases covered. That's cool. And then also okay, I get like 20 to 30, reoccurring on all my stuff in the first 90 days while we're testing that out. That's going to do one of two things. It's going to scare a person who's not confident in sales and sucks at sales because they're going to say, no, I want a better base. I want something more consistent. And then two, it's going to excite the right salesperson on your team because the right salesperson on your team is going to say uncapped 20% reoccurring. I got 10 people I can call up right now, and I'm sure that I could close a handful of them on this. This is great. I'm going to make some bank. That's what you want. You want the type of person
Mhm.
excited about these comp plans, that's excited about hitting those goals, hitting those metrics, getting those bonuses, right? And hitting those quotas because they know they can, right? But if you find a person, you're talking to people and they can't, right? And they get scared and confused and nervous, they're just bad. Those are bad candidates, to be honest with you. And you need to hire better, which is like another conversation. But know that the comp plan is what qualifies good sales reps versus bad.
My favorite sale, like when I'm hiring for a sales role, my favorite question that a good salesperson asks is what kind of opportunity is there? Like they want a breakdown. For us, we have a HubSpot. We use HubSpot internally in Advertis. And the way that we go to market is you guys, so you agency owners out there, you come to us, we help you sell it, right? And so that builds our pipeline. It means it's opportunity in our pipeline as well. So it incentivizes that salesperson to close it for you because we pay them commission on a deal they close for you. And so what happens is they technically every agency owner that we work with, they don't even need a CRM because we basically manage it for them. But essentially it really just helps them kind of identify the opportunity and then, be able to execute and follow up and do the things that a salesperson does on behalf of our partner. And so, a good salesperson that comes into an interview, they're going to ask like, how can I be successful in this role? And so for us, because we have HubSpot, we use a CRM, we have a reactivation pipeline, we have an inactive agency pipeline, we have different pipelines that they can work when, Nate or someone from the top of funnel is not bringing them discovery calls. They have a whole opportunity there they can just tap into at any time, plus their existing partnerships, right? And so for your sales team as an agency, you have a pipeline of business. You don't have a sales team unless you have a pipeline. But I guarantee you, if you're listening closely, I guarantee you are not working. I'm looking at you. You are not working your pipeline the way that you should. And that's something you got to dive into because there's a lot of low hanging fruit and revenue just waiting for you there.
Yep. Yeah. And let's break that down what that could look like. So for every agency owner that's watching this, listening to this, if you took the last just 2 years of leads, right? Of leads that either did turn into business or did not, doesn't matter, right? And I guarantee you that if you took that 1 to 200 people, right? And you reached out to every single one of them, I bet you would have at least a 5% meeting rate, appointment rate to set up another call, another meeting, probably higher. You're right. Being really conservative.
Zach's really conservative, guys, just so everyone knows.
10% meeting rate, right? And you would be able to then initially have like 20 calls set up, right? And then close 10 of those. I mean, you got 2 new sets of like contracts being sent out just from your current clientele. And by the way, sometimes we all in business like to really go for the bottom of the funnel, the ones that are ready to buy, right? Itching to buy. Everyone's competing there, guys. You know where people are not competing? Mid-funnel and top of funnel.
Amen.
Right? Because
yes,
not everyone's ready to buy right now. But if you have the consistent conversations with consistent follow-up, you follow up in your inactive pipeline, right? Or closed loss leads or closed loss proposals, at some point they will be ready to buy. Because a lot of times people think, well, they didn't sign the contract and they stopped responding to me. Or their boss came into their office and was like, we have another thing that's really important. We'll get to the website in Q4, right?
shiny object syndrome, guys.
Just keep following up, keep being at top of mind, right? And then if you want to do that, as Ozzy said before, incentivize your sales team to always be at top of mind.
By the way, fun tip, if you notice that your current sales team is not doing that, that means there's a capacity issue in your sales department. That means it's time to hire another salesperson. That's a good problem to have. The more salespeople that you have means the bigger the pipeline you have to work, by the way. So, kind of talking about that, my favorite comp plan is the account manager comp plan. So this one is my favorite because it's the easiest.
Mm-hmm.
If you're an account manager in an agency, good for you. Because this is where, yes, your commissions are going to be a little bit lower. Your base is usually higher because you have a lot more day-to-day responsibility. But what I love about account managers is you have the ability to educate, upsell, cross-sell. You have the ability to do change orders. You have the ability to do all these different things at the tip of your fingers, and you get to move fast. I would say close cycle is like 30 to 90 days, depending on your agency. I would tell you that an account manager's close cycle is 1 week to 4 weeks max.
Yeah. Usually it's 1 week. I mean, I can tell
agree.
you on the ops side, right? For our AMs, they are in the agency and the client calls. And when they're in those calls, someone says, I just don't think that these Google ads are working as well. I think we might just need to pause and rethink this. Well, have we tried Meta?
Insert buying window here.
Yeah, insert buying window. Yes. No, we haven't tried Meta before. Do you guys do that? Yes, we do that, Mr. Client. We can run meta ads for you. You know what? Let's pause Google and let's just do a change order over to meta ads. And boom, you've just doubled your retention rate and you've added that client on for longer just because you offered an additional service, right? Or you're willing to swap services for similar rates. Like that, and that's the other thing, as Ozzy said, tip. That a buying window is not just when someone asks you, I want to buy your stuff. A buying window is when someone is thinking about cost and pricing and a problem, right? So a buying window is when someone wants to cancel service. A buying window is when someone is really excited about the value of the service that they're getting. We need to do a whole video, honestly, Ozzy, on
Change
buying.
the contacts, change it. Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, it's true. And I think like for the account manager role, very specifically, you got measurements and KPI for like retention. You have measurements and KPI based on like how many like of your active accounts you can earn more business from, cross sell, upsell, right? I think a lot of agencies struggle with this concept. And I'll give you a couple examples. You'll build a website for a client. Okay. At the end of that website build, there's a hosting agreement. Okay, great. There's opportunity for you as an agency owner to go in and now upsell them on building them, ads to promote their new website. You could do SEO, right? To enhance that website for it to rank organically. You
AEO, leverage the
AEO.
LLMs.
Absolutely. And so there's so many different upsells there, cross sells that you can kind of dive into. But a lot of agency teams, they are on to the next deal. They're not thinking about those existing. So have that account manager in that place, incentivizing them, right? Compensation plan, incentivizing them to want to educate that client on the next things that you can do together. That is what you want as an owner. You as an owner, I guarantee you as an owner, you're thinking these things. Yes, but you can only do so much. That's why you have to have this team
Yeah.
that's there. They need to think like you. So that's why it's important to break it apart.
It's not good enough to say, excuse me, Billy Bob Joe, I need you to start selling more of these services. No, Billy Bob Joe is going to be like, I'm just going to make sure a client's happy and not pissed at me. Right. That's all I'm going to make sure. But if you go with Billy Bob Joe and say, hey, I'm going to give you 5% commission on anything you upsell, cross sell, or do a change order on, Billy Bob Joe is going to start to think a little bit differently about those net new opportunities because Billy Bob Joe might get an extra 10 to 20% pay bump just in bonuses and commissions, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you're creating a comp.
That's it. And if you were to break down the industry average of an employee who asks for a raise every single year, right? This happens every time, whether you own an agency or you own a roofing company, your employees are going to ask for a raise at some point. You want to get rid of that? You give them some skin in the game. You give them some percentage of some kind of deal. That honestly, they'll make more money than they would by asking for a 3 to 5% raise. If you even give that, most companies only give a 2% raise on the yearly annual salary. LOL. Pretty funny. I will never forget. There's this very distinct company that I had worked for in the past that I asked for a raise. I was very young, by the way, so don't hold me accountable to this. I was young. I was learning, but they made a big ordeal about this. They brought me into their HR office, sat me down, thanked me for doing all this stuff, as much work as I did for that company and all the things I had done for them. They had lost these employees, and I stepped into those roles and fulfilled their territories and all these things. And I was in sales. And I remember they said, you've really put a hard 3 years in here. And you know what? I think we want to give you a raise of 1.5% on your annual salary. And I remember had this like tunnel vision effect. And I was like, wait a minute, what? Is that real? So I'm telling you all this, and all of you have been employees at some point as well. If you're not currently now, that if you're given the chance or the opportunity to have more skin in the game, and that you could control the outcome, as in if it just based on effort, as the salespeople do, it's based on effort, then you will be more incentivized to not ask for a raise ever, but to get more commission, to get more bonus like that. And so that's when your team starts taking ownership and hold themselves accountable because you're incentivizing them. They have no cap. They can make as much money as they please. And that's why they work for you. They want to make money. So that's it. So that, I think, kind of going back to the whole discussion that we talked about today, building comp plans, make sure it's around KPIs. That's probably one of the most important things. So each role has its own measurement for success. Make sure that the commission or the bonuses or the incentives, whatever you want to call it, is based around the KPIs for that role, that part of the funnel. because appointment setters, they're measured differently than a closer, and a closer is measured differently than an account manager.
Yep.
Right, Zach? You feel that?
Oh, yeah, 100%. Well, and again, we did talk about this on previous videos, but that is where usually as an agency founder or entrepreneur, you will outsource one of those roles, right? So let's say you're really good at getting that new opportunity. Okay, find a good closer, right? Okay, you're really good at closing deals. Okay, get an appointment setter, right? Okay, like you can play with those things, right? It doesn't have to be perfect right out the gate, but you need to start building these systems in place. And one of the best ways to build it and to attract talent, good talent, is to have a really clear compensation plan.
Praise, preach, preach, preach. So, okay. All right. So we've talked about when to hire a sales team. We've talked about how to structure a sales team, and we've talked about how to compensate a sales team now. So next week, I think we're going to dive a little more into the future. We're going to talk about how AI is changing agency sales. And in that, we're going to talk about the tools that we're using internally, and we're quoting, everywhere, anywhere from around 80 to 130 deals a month, around probably equivalent to $1 to $2 million a month in revenue as a marketing agency, guys. And so we're going to talk about the sales tools that we're using for AI, as well as what agency owners should be doing right now to stay ahead of AI and staying ahead of market. Because whether you like it or not, and I will say this until I will die on this hill, whether you like it or not, AI is going to affect not just our industry, but every other industry, but especially our industry, and especially much quicker because we all adopt it much faster. So if you're not staying ahead of it and it changes weekly, then you'll get left behind. And you'll survive if you have a thriving agency. But if you're like most agency owners out there, you're just scraping by, it's not going to be good. We've seen lots of agencies struggle from it. And so that's really it. And guys, we're excited to continue to give you this type of content, to be here to support you in your growth. As you know, at Vertus, we go to market as an agency growth partner. Our whole objective, our whole mission is to help you as an agency owner be successful. So please, please, please like and subscribe to our content. Comment below any questions you have. We're happy to cover, and we're even happy to set up conversations with you one-to-one, Zach and I included. But we're here for you, and we hope that all this serves you well, and we'll see you next week.